Single and child-free women don't owe you anything. No, seriously, we don't owe you anything. Now, before people get upset with me, I am not single anymore, but I am child-free, and I always will be unless something is forced upon me. Because I don't have my own kids, I am so available for my friends, for their children, for my niece and nephew here, to send messages and pour into my nieces back in the U.S. I am here to babysit. I am here. I love taking care of other people's kids. I don't want my own. And yet, I don't owe you anything. We need child-free people. We need aunties. Rich aunties. I'm not rich yet, but I'm in the auntie. Important part of people's lives, the community's lives, kids' lives, taking care of other people. And at the same time, we don't have to. You don't have to. I'm going to go over a story that exemplifies so well how much society expects single women and child-free women to just do our duty, right? Drop everything. Because we got nothing better to do, right? We got nothing better to do since we don't have our own kids, right? And how that internal pressure, it is so hard for single women and child-free women to say no, especially if we are the only child-free and single person in the family. Oh, you're getting married? Oh, well, Melanie will show up. She's got nothing better going on. All those other friends, they got kids, and they got a husband. They have an easy excuse. But Melanie, you better be there. Anything happen with the family? The child-free woman, she's going to show up. The woman who's still single, she can show up. Now, I also know, as somebody who thrived as like the lone wolf, do whatever I want, the reckless one who wandered around, who couldn't be counted on, the way so many men just naturally get to be that person. I got to be the person who no one expects to show up. But as soon as I actually wanted to build community, I wanted to really focus on relationships, I really wanted to pour into my family. Once my sister had kids, then yeah, of course, I know moms are overwhelmed. I would never expect my sister to fly across the country to visit me with her kids. Before anyone gets on my case, I don't have children for a reason. I do not want the life that mothers are forced to live. And by that, I mean all the work and no support. More support in the United States, less support in the United States than pretty much any country I've ever been to in terms of financial support, social services, maternity leave. Who gets that? Like any of that stuff, right? If you, are poor, disabled, you come from any marginalized group, then you already, it is so hard to be a mother in general, but especially in societies that just don't support mothers, which is most. Don't support mothers the way they ought to. So I'm not saying this is a single versus, child-free versus mom thing at all. In fact, the more confident I became in my child-freeness, the better of an advocate I was for moms. The more I wanted to support moms because I wasn't worried about other people thinking I should have kids because I was like, fork you, I know it's best for me. I'm not having kids. And because I didn't live with that defensiveness and that shame and that the anger that everyone wanted me to do this thing and I was like, I don't care. I've made peace with it. Then I could actually give more grace to mothers. A kid crying on the plane, I'm like, I hate this. But that poor mom, right? I started empathy was the first thing that went out to all mothers. Well, not all, but most mothers. Instead of God, I want the world to be child-free, so my life, or, cater to the child-free person. I don't agree with that. You can be child-free without actually wanting mothers to be excluded from society because you don't like kids and you don't want people telling you that you should want kids when you don't want kids. I used to be so anti-child, partly because I was so pissed that people wanted me to do that. And the less I cared, the more of an advocate I was for mothers. So just to put that out there. And at the same time, I went a little too far the other way. Where I didn't always think about what I needed first, so that I could pour into these children and the mothers that I loved. And by that, I mean, I would fly across the country so many times, spending money I didn't have to go visit kids. I went to so many weddings I should have said no to. But because, well, I mean, I don't have kids and I'm single, like, I don't really have an excuse. Yes, you do. You can't afford it. That's an excuse. But I didn't want to be a bad friend. And, you know, I know like all these other people probably won't go because they got little kids, right? So I will show up. Don't be that person. You will resent that person that you're showing up for sometimes when they didn't actually make you go. You made you go. Your guilt made you go. Your patriarchal conditioning that you should do this thing because you got nothing else going on. Just because you don't have something else going on does not mean that you are available. Because here's the thing, as much as mothers especially need the support of their communities, single child-free women also have to spend a lot of time making friends again and again and again, because so many times, especially in your 30s, you have all these close girlfriends and then they get picked off. One by one, they disappear into marriage and then really disappear into parenthood. And then you're like, oh, wow, I guess I got to start all over again with my chosen family. And if they're women who have not decentered men, you will literally never see them again. They don't have one. They will never have anything to do with you because they got their man. And now you're just what good are you? And so as a single child-free woman, one of the hardest parts about that was having to make new friends constantly because they kept getting whisked away into patriarchy. And by that I mean marriage with men who wouldn't do enough. And then motherhood, where they are so exhausted they literally don't even have time to take a shower. You really think they have time to go out and get a coffee with me? No. And so single child-free women lose. We have to grieve so many relationships, but I know mothers are grieving too. I know mothers are grieving their old life. They're grieving friendships that they lose. They lose so much of their lives. We are all suffering. We're all suffering from like the opposite extremes, right? I remember being like, wow, I am alone a lot. And I was fine with that. I liked being alone, especially as a writer and a creator. You know, I love being bored because when I'm bored, that's when I create amazing things. Whereas moms, like, I never get to be bored. Other than when you have a baby, you're exhausted but bored because babies are so boring. But they are also somehow unbelievably exhausting at the same time. I used to be a nanny, so I know something about this. But I have met so many women who literally have not had one night without their children in like 5 years, sometimes longer. Not one night away from them, not one night alone. And then I'm sitting here being like, I'm literally alone every single night. Every single night. I have way too much alone time. You have absolutely no alone time. Is there no middle? Like, what? How did these are our two options, right? Which is another reason why decentering men and romantic relationships and instead focusing on community, and especially community with other women decentering men, because the ones who are not decentering men, they're going to disappear. They're going to disappear and they're going to break your heart. And then when that man screws them over, they're going to be like, hey! And you're like, wow, where have you been? And you're going to, like, it's hard to unsee that. So one of the things that I had to realize, and even moving to Europe was a really hard decision for me because I really wanted to be near my nieces. I mean, I was living in LA and they're in Florida. I literally couldn't be any farther away from them unless I was in like Seattle or something, or maybe Alaska, being in the same country. But I needed to be where I needed to be for my career. Even though Europe is actually around, not that, like almost the same distance, it's the money, it's the cost of the ticket, it's the international flight. Leaving the United States would mean that I was moving myself as a permanent fixture in my niece's life. It was one of the hardest decisions I have ever made because I love them so much and I love being an aunt. And yet I didn't get to see them enough because, you know, they're busy. They're, you know, like kids are so busy. They're doing so many things. I didn't get to see them enough to justify me staying where I was just for like 2 short visits a year. So I had to make that hard decision to move away from my family. Again, by moving away to, you know, France instead of LA, which again is like the distance is it's about the money. It's so expensive to leave your country because, and you know, especially if it involves an ocean. I haven't been home in almost 3 years because most of it comes down to money. But knowing that I might be single, child-free the rest of my life, I had to focus on community. Community is the most important thing for a single and child-free or single or child-free woman to have. We can't rely on men. We have to have community. We have to have friendships. And so I had to make some hard decisions about where I wanted those to be. And at that time I was like, okay, well, not in LA. I mean, I can't even afford to live here. All I do is work. Anyway, there's a whole story. But I really had to focus on what was best for me, especially because I didn't have a family. Because if I had not done that, if I had stayed somewhere I didn't want to stay, just so that I could go see family a couple times a year, I would blame them. I would blame them for me not doing what I needed to. Luckily, I had family that supported my decisions, right? My sister always wants me to do what's best for me. But a lot of people, a lot of women do not have that. They do not have family that support them taking care of themselves. A lot of women have family members who exploit their single relation, their relationship status and their child-free status, and are like, cool, free babysitter whenever I want. And I want to show you a really extreme example of this, but this story makes me so mad, and that's why I want to make this whole video, because I know a lot of single women follow me. I know a lot of child-free women. I know a lot of single moms follow me. I know a lot of women follow me who are decentering men, and I really, really want us to focus on what is best, what's best for us, what's healthiest for us. Because this martyrdom, this like giving too much thing, we end up becoming resentful and bitter and taking it out on the very people that we're sacrificing for. And we also just go along with it because patriarchy has told us if we are not taking care of somebody, if we are not centering family and children and men all the time, then we're selfish. We're selfish. Well, I'd rather be selfish and happy than a martyr who's miserable and hates everybody and feels like a victim. Have you been around those people? They are not fun to be around. You remember your grandma? Most of our grandmas were being held hostage. Both of my grandmas had hearts of stone by the time they died because they never got to do what they truly wanted to because of men and patriarchy. I don't want to be like that. Do not let your family members guilt you into doing stuff you don't want to do, because you will actually turn into the bitter, resentful, way too available, does way too much, go-to person who everyone walks over. And at the end of the day, none of those people respect you at all because you do too much. Now, I had a sister, so I have not experienced what it's like to have a brother who is an entitled jerk, but I have heard a lot of my friends had older brothers, a lot of people who follow me have older brothers, and my conclusion is that most older brothers are the OG oppressor in her life, if other than her own father. The little prince of the family is literally like the person who makes a lot of women's lives hard. That's their first real bully, which then oftentimes leads women to end up dating and marrying men who act just like their dad or their brother because they're used to not feeling safe in their own home. They're used to being exploited in their own home and not respected or seen or appreciated in their own home. So if this was your upbringing, please be careful, because your own brother and men who remind you of your brother or your dad, if he sucked, are going to ruin your life. So in this one, this is for that Slate column, Care and Feeding. In 2022, I took a contract job in my brother's town where I worked full-time at the hospital. You're a nurse. You're a nurse, aren't you? I swear, nurses, therapists, and teachers, full of codependent women who martyr themselves. I'm not saying all women in those professions do that. I'm just saying, I know a lot of codependent women. And those three professions is where women get exploited probably the most, undervalued the most, and do it because they love it. Therefore, they don't get paid crap and they get exploited. Anywho, if you're in one of those professions and you get exploited at work, maybe you should go get some help for codependency, because the way we behave at work is oftentimes exact replica of our family system. And I am personally really deep in the work of working on my codependency with my work life, because that is the most challenging part for me to do right now. Anyhow, I hoped that we could become closer since I felt like my family drifted apart in the pandemic. See, she's already doing it all. She moved to go be close to her brother. Just like usual, the women are accommodating the men. Her brother probably doesn't do crap to keep up this relationship. She's probably the one who calls all the time. She's probably the one who visits him. And she even moved there to be close to him. And I'd been widowed after a short marriage. Oh my God. Okay, so she's grieving. I don't know how old she is. I'm kind of guessing maybe she's in her 40s or 50s. But okay, there's so much we don't know. But she's grieving a marriage, a short one. But like not a divorce, like a death. Next level. Shortly after I moved, my sister-in-law had a second baby and they were struggling with childcare. Because my job wasn't a 9-to-5 position, I agreed to help with some childcare on weekdays. This hasn't been smooth. They're both pretty demanding about it and get angry when I warn them of upcoming overtime at work or go on planned vacations. I hate your brother. I hate your brother. Maybe his wife just sucks out of the gate. But if the brother, if he sucks, she's probably going to suck too. Because he's probably not doing anything at home and she's overwhelmed. So she's going to rely on you to help her because her trash husband won't. Can you imagine? I don't know if she's a nurse. I'm just guessing. But she works at a hospital. Maybe she's a doctor. Uh-oh. Melanie, internalized misogyny. I just assumed she's a nurse because I'm a jerk. I don't know. Maybe she's works another position. There's a lot of positions. Anyway, my guess from these hours is that she's either a doctor or a nurse. And so therefore she and did it during the pandemic and is grieving a dead husband. And yet her spare time, she's taking care of kids that aren't hers. Now, she's the aunt, so she wants a relationship with them, but probably because her brother sucks and is selfish, and her sister-in-law is probably a married single mom and is overwhelmed because her husband sucks. Now, sister's stepping in. An overworked, grieving, does too much sister. I mean, the fact that they get angry that you work overtime at a hospital and go on planned vacations, never just, a surprise girls trip, literally planned vacation. No! I'm so mad at this couple. But I love my niece and my nephew, so I make it work. I haven't been able to build the kind of closeness I wished for with my brother and sister-in-law, but I don't see that changing now that I know who and how they are. Well, good for you. Good for you for realizing you probably won't ever be close to them, but also it's really hard to be close to somebody who's exploiting you. Because somebody who loves you would not exploit you. So I'm glad that you've come to this realization. And I also understand, I know so many women who want relationships with their nieces and nephews, but they have to maintain some sort of relationship with their sibling because that sibling is the gatekeeper to those kids. And understandably so, parents get to choose who sees their kids. A lot of grandparents who suck, who were terrible parents, don't get access to those kids because they've been cut off. I understand that. So I understand when people cut off their siblings too. But this is a situation where she's doing all this stuff because she wants a relationship with them. And even though she's being exploited, she's just sucking it up and going along with it because she doesn't want to upset the king baby or the queen baby. And I get it. It's a hard position to be in. My contract is coming to an end in August. Okay, I'm guessing this is a traveling nurse or a traveling doctor. I don't know. People who work in healthcare, you chime in. I've decided not to renew, but to get back into a travel position. Okay, come on. A travel position to meet some financial goals. Good for you. Financial freedom. Financial freedom is the key to women's freedom. I'll move in with old friends who I've lived with in the past and in between travel cycles. This way I can contribute some rent towards their mortgage. Whose mortgage? Your brother's mortgage? Or your friend's mortgage? Please say it's your friend's mortgage. Make and save some money towards my own goals and spend time with my friends and their kids when I'm home. See, this is the energy we need. Taking care of your finances, spending time with family, building your community. If it means putting up with endless crap from your sibling in order to have children in your life, there comes you got to draw a line. So I'm glad she has her friends' kids in her life too. Because, those of us who don't have kids, it doesn't mean we hate kids. I love kids, but they're exhausting. I'm the fun aunts, but I can't be at 275% all the time. I'm hilarious and fun for a few days. As an aunt and a fun aunt, I feel like I am sprinting and my mom friends are running marathons, right? Like, I can only go short distances. I'm not in this for the long haul, but I run very fast. God, I hate this metaphor because marathon runners who are men, y'all know how I feel. Anyway, okay. Ideally, I'd like to give them a lot of notice to find a new childcare arrangement, but he and his wife have been pretty nasty when I've had a childcare conflicts in the past, right? Because you are just a free babysitter and you owe them all your time. And I don't want to make my last months here bad, but my sister-in-law is pregnant. Oh my God. Here we go. You can't even handle the 2 kids you have. Did this man baby trap you? The brother probably baby trapped her. The brother sucks so much he probably has like a pregnancy kink. And here is his wife, who seems like a villain in this story. I'm not saying she's not, but given how the brother is, she's probably like really miserable and overwhelmed. And now she's pregnant again. And guess what? He's not going to help her with that one either. So she's expecting in the fall. I've already told her that I can't take the kids during the birth, and she was angry about it. Okay. I'm really not liking this sister-in-law. I had to tell her I didn't want her to count on me for this, then leave her in the lurch, right? Like, that's what you should do. Hey, don't count on me. Instead, she got mad. Not cool. But now I'm really full of dread about breaking the bigger news. What do I do? Traveling aunt. Aww. Did I ever tell you this used to be like my hero? People are like, you're like Uncle Traveling Matt from Fraggle Rock. Aunt Traveling Melanie. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. So distracted. Focus. Okay, so this is the answer from the editor. Tell them now, all caps. You don't want your last months in this town to be bad? How good how good will they be if you spend them feeling anxious about delivering your news? Like, she's like afraid of her sister-in-law and brother. You can't even be honest with them because they're such jerks. And even if you can suppress your dread, nothing can come from putting this off. Yeah, I agree with that. Well, I wish you'd stood up for yourself before. It's not too late to let them know that your life is your own. Yes! Yes! Oh, sorry. Oh, he's sleeping. I'm sorry. Your life is your own. That it can't and should not be spent in service to them. Yes. You don't have to be mean about it. I doubt she would be. She's probably like, excuse me, do you mind if I don't? Yeah, I could just see her like even having a hard time telling them this. You don't have to bring up past wrongs against you. This is really important, y'all, especially if you hope to maintain contact with their children once you move away and continue to be involved loving aunt. See, this is what I was talking about. You have to thread this needle of like, okay, I really can't be as honest with them as I want to and really call them out for how ridiculous they're being because they may withhold the children. I understand. This is what so many, I've never been put in this position, but so many women who really want relationships with their nieces, you kind of have to kiss the ring a little bit, but still, boundaries is important. Just tell them you're ready for a change and want to make sure you've given them plenty of notice that the change is coming soon so that they can make other arrangements for the care of their kids. They may call you selfish, and there's that word. Single, child-free women who say no are oftentimes called selfish. Hell, we're called selfish just for being child-free. We're called selfish for being single. How dare you not martyr yourself and hate your children and resent your children for doing something you didn't want to do that everyone told you had to do or you be selfish. It's selfish to have children you don't want. That's actually selfish. It's selfish to have children for no reason other than peer pressure or, wanting a mini-me or to fix your marriage, which is absolutely not going to fix your marriage ever, 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 or to not feel alone. Those are very selfish reasons for having children. And yet it's child-free women who are constantly called selfish for not bringing a child into the world that we know we will traumatize because we don't want them. If you've never felt what it's like to have a parent who doesn't want to be around you and could care less about you, I mean, in theory, they say they love you and all that stuff. It literally makes it abundantly clear with their actions that they don't want anything to do with you. If you've never felt that, I promise you, it is like a lot of therapy to undo that. And it is the perfect foundation for unhealthy relationships, romantic relationships, and friendships for the rest of your life. So do not believe people who call you selfish for not having kids. Most of those people are doing what men do. They're projecting. And a lot of times it's out of jealousy, because a lot of women didn't realize they didn't want children until they had them. And now it's too late. If you don't believe me, go to Reddit. Full of women being like, I hate this. I hate this. Like, not only do I hate this, I want out. I made a mistake. But they can't ever say that in public because women aren't allowed to feel that way. So they may berate you for, as they see it, giving them the idea that you would be available to them indefinitely. Blank check for childcare. Then pulling the plug. So what? So what? Prepare yourself for all the worst things that they may say, and then when it comes, deal with it. You'll be okay. You will respect yourself more for doing this than for putting up with something that doesn't feel right. Having people angry with us isn't fun. I know, it feels awful, maybe unbearable, but it happens. It's a part of life, as are disappointments and mistakes and grief. I'm very sorry that your hope of having a close relationship with them did not come to pass. Now it's up to you to create a chosen family. It sounds as if you've already made a good start on this with your friends and plan to stay with it like so many of us do. At a certain point, women realize when they're child-free and they're single, and this was what I realized. I mean, I was, in my 40s. I just entered my 40s, and I was like, yep, I am definitely not having kids, but I probably will, sorry. Sorry. But I also probably will never get married. Life is weird, but I prepared myself for that. And that's why I was like, I'm probably not going to do any of these things I was told to do. And that's okay. I'm going to have the golden girl ending, and I'm going to work on my community and my friendships and have my chosen family. Now I have a chosen family and a husband. I never was planning on this. But at 40, having not even started dating ever until 36, I was like, I never assumed I'd get married. I know a lot of women are kind of in a different grieving process because they really wanted that. They really wanted the family. They really wanted kids. And maybe some of them have realized that they're not going to do any of those anymore. And that's grief. But do not let your brother, your mother, your father, your family, or anyone else convince you to do something because you should. Don't let them convince you to not do what you want to do with your life because what else are you going to do? Because you're available. No, just because you can't hide behind the excuse of my husband or my kids to not go to things or not give to things and not invest time and energy into things. So many people, once they get married, they're like, oh, cool, I don't want to go to this thing. I'll just say my husband can't or my husband's sick. People use their spouses all the time to not do stuff they don't want to do. And then once they get kids, even better. The kid's sick. Really? I mean, I know kids get sick a lot. And I know parents are usually not lying, but I also know that they're overwhelmed and they can always throw the kid as a reason to not do something. Single child-free women, we can't do that. Or can we? We will be perceived as selfish. We will be not liked by a lot of people. But when we start really asking ourselves, what do I want to do? Do I really want to do this, or am I doing this strictly out of guilt? When we really get clear on what we want to do, rather than what they, whoever that is, sometimes the they is in here, it's not even them, it's like the patriarchy or codependency saying. When we get really clear on what we want to do, we show up for people in an authentic way. We can give more because we're not giving from a place of deficit. We can love more because we're not feeling exploited and resentful. And we can be on the path that we want to be rather than the one that other people keep trying to drag us onto because we're single and child-free and we owe something to everyone else. Because how dare we tap out of caretaking as a woman? You do you, boo. It's your life and you only got one. Unless you believe in reincarnation and then whatever. You're still owning this one. Like, comment, share, set notifications, and thank you for being here.